Welcome to Surviving as a Civilian. I'm here with a very special guest, Lisa Kirk. Lisa, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for coming in and doing this. And I spoke a little bit earlier, but you were the very first person on Surviving as a Civilian that I've actually had inside the quote unquote studio. So thank you.
I love it.
So I guess let's talk a little bit about how this happened. I was invited to the Graduate Warriors radio show they did locally last week. You were there too because you'd been on that radio show prior to my appearance, and you gave me a book, and you did guest speaking too, but you handed me a book for me to read signed, which was great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I started to read that book, and I got about halfway through it, and I said, I need to have her on. She needs to get that book out to as many people as she can. It's and we're gonna not give away the story, but that book is it's gonna change people's thought and everything like that. But backing up before that, let's talk a little bit about you. Why did you join the Army?
Why did I join the Army? Well, I was born and raised in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, and I grew up there for my first 21, 22 years. And throughout my time there, my family served in the military. My grandfather was an MP in World War II. My other grandfather was in the infantry during Normandy. And I have a couple uncles, one's in special forces, and other one's like a logistician. And I worked as a nursing assistant in a veterans home. And long story short, I sat down with a Pearl Harbor survivor, and he saw me walk in. He said, "You got a proud walk. You standing tall, looking good. Ought to be in Hollywood, right?"
Right.
And he said, "Why don't I think about the military?" And I always wanted to. I always wanted to serve my country. And my mom never thought that I would be a good fit because I'm an emotional child. But however, emotions really never affected me as well because I played sports in my life. So I thought I'd take a chance, and I joined. I asked a recruiter, and it was back in '96, May of '96. I asked him if I could join to be an infantry soldier, and he said, "You can't be an infantry soldier because females can't be infantry." I said, "What's the closest thing to infantry?" And he said, "Military police." So I joined the military police corps, and I served my basic and AIT down in Fort McClellan, Alabama, and then served for 21 and a half years.
So you said your grandparents served in
Yeah.
World War II.
Yes.
Did they ever tell you stories or speak about it at all?
No.
No, kind of kept it.
I saw pictures, lots,
Yeah.
lots and lots of black and white pictures. In fact, when I was deployed to Panama back in '98, my grandfather was in Panama. I don't know what year he was there, probably in the late 30s. But it was crazy because I'd sit on this cannon and I'd show my grandmom, and she's like, "That's the same place my grandfather was at some point in time." So
That is great.
yeah,
Huh.
yeah.
So why did you end up writing the book?
Well, I went through a lot of trials and tribulations in my career, good and bad, indifferent. And the latter part of my career, I started noticing a change, a huge change in my life. And I developed a lot of medical issues and stuff like that, and I knew at some point in my life I had to step down. And it's hard for us to step down because we're hard headed, right? Well, I went into the Wounded Warrior program in Fort Riley at my last duty station. And they sent me to Minneapolis, Minnesota for PTSD and mild traumatic brain injury. And I was there for a 6-month treatment. And I did a cognitive process thinking for 12 weeks. So I was able to write down my traumatic incidences that happened. And I couldn't write them all down because I was only there for like 6 months and it was a 12-week program. But I was able to capture a lot of things and write it and read it over and over and over again until it kind of came like numb in my mind. So it wouldn't affect me as much. It still affects me, but not as much as a trigger.
Was that the purpose of the therapy?
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay. So the thing was just have you write it down over and over until it just becomes, I guess, more acceptable in your head.
More acceptable.
Okay.
More acceptable. It's basically like taking facts and if they're actually real or if it's just you're like it's like the CPT is like a lawyer basically trying to tell you whether it's fact or if it's real or anything like that. So I went through the therapy and then I looked down and saw all this paperwork and said, you know what? I need to write a book. If this stuff happened to me throughout my career, it has probably happened to some of my friends and some of my battle buddies out there. And if I can be a voice and speak up and write something down, share with the world what I experienced, then maybe it could help inspire and motivate somebody as well.
And I 100% agree with you. I think you can too, and I think that's one of the good reasons you're here is to help get the message out that this book does exist because I think it will change people's thought process if they haven't. And I know, the culture is slowly changing in the military. We're always kind of a little bit slower than the rest of the society, but hopefully getting your message out there will definitely clear it up for some people why we need to make some of those changes,
Yes.
So you were in Fort Riley and they decided to send you up for specialized treatment in Minneapolis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I took a knee when I was a first sergeant because I knew it was my time because I always thought in the back of my mind 10 years down the road, who's going to take care of you? And if you don't take care of yourself, who's going to take care of you? So at that point in time, I realized that, I have a lot of medical stuff that I wanted to take care of, and I was stubborn. So instead of taking on that first sergeant position and moving on and trying to be a sergeant major, I said, you know what? It's time that I take care of myself. Because if I don't take care of myself, then, who's going to take care of me?
Right.
So that's when I said I need to go to the Wounded Warrior program in Fort Riley and start taking care of myself and healing and get what I need before I transition out.
Was that a hard decision? I mean, did you struggle with that decision?
I was hard-headed. The leadership there was like, "Oh my gosh, you need to get it through your head. We understand who you are. We know what you did, for your country, but it's time for you to take care of yourself."
Was anybody trying to talk you out of going, seeking help or anything like that? No, everybody was supportive, huh?
Everybody was supportive,
Good.
yes.
Good.
Yes. Well, there are some things in the book that I'd like to bring up because I know in the military it's kind of hard for people to open up, and we see some stuff on social media through it and stuff like that. And this is some of the reasons why I wrote the book. Some of the stuff that I had to deal with in the military, I had great experiences. I really did. I had great experiences in the military. I mean, serving 21 and a half years in the military. But the experience that I faced was like the first 6 months in the military, I was raped and nobody listened to me. And then about 2012, stuff happened in the beginning, in between there, and I'm not going to go into detail because of that stuff. Some of that stuff's in the book. But then I thought I would learn my lesson and just suck it up and drive on like they, Big Army tells us to do, and just continue to drive on. Back in 2012, I got physically assaulted on the parade field on Fort Leonard Wood, and nothing was done. So within that time period, from 1998 or 97-ish, I don't remember the actual date that I got or the year I got raped, and the time that I got physically assaulted, where was that change at, as far as the education and people saying, hey, there's something wrong here, we need to take care of this matter, and that's where I had to step in and say, I have to write this. Because, if it happened to me, it's probably happened to so many other people out there, and it's wrong.
Absolutely. I'm glad you did. I mean, it's a horrible thing. I mean, to happen to anybody, but to be brave enough to speak out about it, because I think a lot of people keep that stuff a secret because they're ashamed or embarrassed or whatever the case may be, or afraid nothing's going to happen. And I don't want to get into details, but you were able to overcome that and still share your story,
Yes.
which is phenomenal. It really is. The cover of the book. Describe to me what's the significance of the cover of the book. By the way, I forgot. The name of the book is In and Out of Uniform. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned that. In and Out of Uniform by Lisa Kirk.
When you look up In and Out of Uniform, I had a couple friends of mine. In fact, I'm a volunteer firefighter for Roby. And my chief, it was funny. My chief was looking up In and Out of Uniform when I told him the book came out. And it showed some graphic stuff on the internet. So if you look up In and Out of Uniform by Lisa Kirk or go on Amazon, you'll be able to find it. If not, it's going to come up with like half undressed people.
Oh, really?
It's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. So just remember my name, Lisa Kirk. And if you write Lisa Kirk book on Amazon, it should come up. But
yeah, I put In and Out of Uniform on Amazon. It popped right up.
Yeah, most definitely. But as far as the cover goes, I wanted something since it's In and Out of Uniform, I wanted a silhouette of a half of a soldier and half of a woman. So my sister, Carol Grimsley, she lives in Lakeland, Florida. She's my oldest sister. We've been through a lot together growing up, and she's my best friend, one of my very, very best friends. And she's an artist. She does murals all over Lakeland. And she did an acrylic. It looked to me on the cover, it looks like an acrylic pour. And if some of you guys don't know what acrylic pour is, it's like taking a whole bunch of colors together and it's all psychedelic. And that's kind of like my life, it's all in color. And then when the acrylic dried, she just started going with her gut feeling. And it's basically a silhouette of a soldier on one side, and then a girl with long hair on the other side, and the soldier saluting. And it's got a big heart. And the heart is because I have a huge heart. And that's what really gets me every time I look at that book cover, is the fact that, she put that big heart there. And if you look closely into the picture, you can see a door. And it's a white door. And she said it's a door to opening up to a new adventure. It's pretty cool.
Where do you see, what would in your head make you consider this book a success?
Well, I received some really good feedback, and I was concerned when I first wrote the book and published it. Before I published it, I published it through Dorrance, which is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I was concerned. I thought I was going to get critiqued, really, and I don't mind a critique because it's good feedback, but I was concerned because I was thinking, oh my gosh, people are going to be like, wow, what's going on with this girl? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She's telling her story. But I was surprised, really. I receive a lot of messenger and through social media. I receive a lot of messages from friends and just battle buddies and people who have actually bought the book. And they have given me some really good positive feedback and said that this book is going to change somebody's life.
I believe it too. What have you been doing with the book as far as promotions and stuff?
I've done book sellings. I go through Dorrance and I get a percentage off if I buy some books. So I've been buying a bunch of books, and I work at the Piney River Brewing Company in Bucyrus, Missouri, as well as the tap room. And I go and I talk to my boss, and she's like, yeah, we can do a promotion and promote your book and stuff like that. I have these postcards that I need to give to the City of Commerce in St. Roberts to see if maybe they can push that out as well. But I've been going on a lot of Facebook pages for veterans and women veterans and so forth, and telling them my story. And I've had a lot of people buy it, which is amazing. I'm thankful. I'm very thankful. Yep. And to be honest with you, the money to me means nothing. The voice that I have to share, to get the word out, to let people know that they have a voice to speak up is, important.
Did you take any writing classes prior to this? Like, were you, in any kind of college classes or?
No, I have a bachelor's of science degree in health and sports science, so I can be a personal trainer. But I seriously think the cognitive process thinking that I went through really had me sit down and reflect. And all I did, it took me about a year to write the book. All I did was sat down and went through, like, what am I going to write as far as the title of the chapters.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking of those sayings that in the military, you can't make this stuff up, you know. And then in the beginning of my life, of course, you know, I'm not going to share with you guys everything in the book, but like the story of my life is cheesy Lisa, and you'll figure out why, because I'm always smiling. But I just had to put those pieces together, and then after that, I just started to write. And my sister-in-law back in Pennsylvania, she read the book, and I gave my book to them for Christmas last year, and she's like, it's like having a conversation with me. So it's an easy read book. It's only like 84 pages.
Yep, it's really good for people like me that don't read a lot. So, but it's good because it catches you right away. It catches your attention right away, and I caught myself reading it and being like, "What? How does this happen?" But even how does this happen? Even whatever it is, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, whenever. I'm not good with math. I'm not going to try to do it in public. But even then, even I got it. Times are different. But how does stuff like that happen back then? You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have plans for a second book?
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about doing a second book. I'd like to do one in regards to transitioning.
Yeah.
Because transitioning is super hard. It's been hard in my life, and I'm sure it's hard in a lot of people's life who are always on the go, who have deployed multiple times. I mean, I've only deployed once, but throughout my career, I've been through a lot of trauma and going through my therapist, and I'm sure there's a lot of individuals out there who may be licensed or whatever who are listening can honestly say, you know, if you go through trauma, you seem like you're always on the go. There's never time to relax, because when you relax, that Rolodex just keeps going and going and going. So I always feel like I'm always on the go. My husband told me, he goes, you know, with my 2 jobs and being a volunteer firefighter, he's like, man, it feels like you're still deployed. So I need to kind of pull the reins a little bit and try to figure out what to do to kind of find that, you know, balance.
How did your transition go out of the Army? So it was still ACAP back then, wasn't it? Or was it SFL TAP? ACAP?
SFL TAP.
Okay, so how did it go for you?
Well, as soon as I packed up my stuff and left Fort Riley, I came home, dropped my stuff off, went and picked up my therapy dog. He's just my little puppy dog. He's 3 years old now. His name's Roscoe. And then went to a interview the next day to work at the Piney River Brewing Company, because they've been asking me to work for them for about 2 years before I retired.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the funny thing about that, as I'd like to share, it's kind of funny. I'm sitting there talking to my boss, Brian, and he's like, "Why are you so nervous? Why are you? I'm just interviewing. I'm just talking to you." And I told him, I said, the last time I was interviewed, I raised my hand. That was 20 something years ago. I've never interviewed for a job before. I think he was more nervous than I was during the interview. Yeah.
So overall, the services that you got, if there was something that you could tell somebody getting out, either ETS or retiring, what would you say you wish would have done differently?
Thank you for that question, because I'm really regretting not getting the VGLI right now. Because
what is the VGLI?
Okay, the Veterans Group Life Insurance.
Okay,
so I was looking into the Veterans Group Life Insurance, and I know whether it's a good life insurance policy or not, it's whatever it is, you know, but it's something, especially for veterans when we get out, because I missed the window. It was about, I guess, 180 days, between 120 and 180 days when you get out. You have, after you retire, you have to apply for it. And I missed that window. So I talked to a local insurance agency to see if I can get an insurance policy. And they went through the blood draw. They went through all this stuff. And I told them what my medical history was. I told them I had PTSD, anxiety, and depression. And when the when the individual was on the phone, he was saying non-smoker, and I smoke. I smoke cigarettes, but anyway,
Thank you for clarifying.
yeah. I thought that was the kicker. I thought it was going to be astronomical because I smoked, right? No, I got denied life insurance through a agency because of PTSD, anxiety, and depression.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. So had you taken up the stuff from the veteran stuff, there would have been no issues, huh?
No issues whatsoever. No, because I'm sure that they understand that whole situation.
That is a great piece of advice.
It is. It is. And I try to tell a lot of people, a lot of my battle buddies, when they're getting out of the military, either get that VGLI or go through get your life insurance before you go through your process for disability. Because
why is that?
Because once you have in your medical records, when they go through and they see the PTSD, anxiety, and depression, you never know, they might deny you, like they did with me.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah. It's a fact. It happened to me, so it could happen to anybody.
So once you got out, what are some of the things you think that helped you be successful once you got out, or help you adjust back to civilian life? So you did 21. You said 21.
21 and a half
years.
Yes.
Yeah. So for 21 and a half years, you've been told to where to go, what to wear, what to eat, and you retired as a master sergeant, right?
Yes.
So people would stand at parade rest for you and get out of your way when you walk down halls and stuff like that. Did any of that stuff affect you when you transitioned to civilian life?
Not so much.
Okay.
No, because the job that I have now, my bosses are the best bosses I've ever had in the whole entire world, to be honest with you. I mean, every job that I've ever had in my whole entire life, they're the best. They're understanding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I can give you an example of that real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I was physically assaulted in 2013 or something like that, my shoulder was bad, my right shoulder. And I had a frozen shoulder about a couple years ago. And I was working in the brew house where I help them make the beer and clean the kegs and stuff like that. Well, I couldn't do it anymore. And I felt so bad. And I thought I was going to lose my job because, you know, when you're hurt, either you don't say anything and it gets worse, or you say something and you have to step down.
Mm-hmm.
And because you can't lead anymore, or you can't do the job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in my mindset, I was thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to fire me because they can't use me anymore. They're going to find somebody to replace me and I won't have a job anymore. Well, they came up to me and told me, they said, you get 100% and come back to work. I had tears in my eyes because I reflected on all the times when I had to step down because of a medical situation that I had where I had no choice but to step down because, you know, when you leave from the front, you have to be 100%,
mm-hmm.
you know, and let the soldiers know that you're good to go.
Right.
So they said, don't worry about it. Just come back healthy. And I came back healthy and I still have my job.
That is great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So that right there. But as far as, working is great. I love the social, it's like a safe place. It's like, you know, you go there, you deal with the people are so great. I have coping skills. I can honestly tell you guys, and I'm going to say this, at the end of the book, the last statement in the book is, what is your coping skill? And the reason why I'm saying this, and he said don't say anything about the book really, but I want to share this with you, is because coping skills are very, very important. And if you don't have a coping skill, like for example, my coping skills are like going to the gym, I play guitar, I have a sip and paint class. I bring people in and we sip and paint, and all their worries go away because they're focusing on what they're painting. And I crochet, you know, and I also have my animals. You know, my animals are very therapeutic to me, and I do gardening around the house and stuff like that. I keep myself busy.
Well, Lisa, thank you for coming in and doing this interview with you. Again, her book is In and Out of Uniform by Lisa Kirk. Find it on Amazon. You probably Google it, right?
Yes. Yes, you can Google it at the book title, or when you go to Amazon, you can also type up Lisa Kirk book, and it should come up In and Out of Uniform as well.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this. I can't wait to see what kind of response we get from this.
Oh, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Getting the message out about suicide prevention is a team effort. We need people to be brave enough to tell their stories. We need supporters who care enough to spread the word. If you have a story you want to share, please email us at survivingasacivilian.casting@gmail.com. And if you want to help share this project, like and subscribe to Surviving as a Civilian on Instagram and Facebook. The most important thing Andrew and I want to get across is that if you need help, get help. And if you can give help, please do it. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is at 1-800-273-8255. Until next time.